So, the Mayor of Montreal, Valérie Plante, is going to be saying a few words, and then Mr. Luc Rabouin, responsible for economic development of the Executive Committee, and then we'll be going to the question period. I would like to remind all journalists who are listening to us online to please send me their questions in both French and English. Without any further ado, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Geneviève. So before revealing to you certain details on the way in which the $40 million announced by the Quebec government will be distributed in support of enterprises and companies, I'd like to come back to certain elements of public health. First, I wish to thank all Montrealers who are really showing a great deal of resilience, a lot of discipline. I thank you so much for following the recommendations from public health. I would like to come back to the experience of last week concerning Montreal Street, and it's nice to have the mayor of Montreal beside me. As you know, we decided to have a sanitary corridor on that street in order to favor moving around in a very dense neighborhood and that it be done safely. So thanks to that sanitary corridor, which was a success, the data that we got show that it was welcomed, respected, and that it did allow people who had to, who have to line up to go into the stores to do their essential purchases. It allows a good cohabitation with people who also have to circulate. So we had said so last week that this was a first and that we're going to be evaluating other scenarios for other commercial streets and other places in the city. So we are going to be able to announce these to you in the coming days. As well, when we got back from the Easter weekend, we started the cleaning operations, essentially on the main arteries, the sidewalks, as well as the bike paths. As well, the fixing of the holes in the street and potholes has started. And of course, the cleaning of the streets won't start until the 1st of May. As you know, we decided to delay the application of the parking rules, alternative parking, from the 1st of April to the 1st of May to be able to respect the confinement rules. And today, it's also the first Big C Day, Big C, which is starting its season. And like numerous other large cities in the world, Montreal has followed the recommendations of public health, and we chose to launch the Big C system in order to offer more options for those people who are still working or who have to go make essential purchases. And I'm very happy that Big C chose to offer a 30-day free registration for people who work in the health network so that they can move around in all safety, whether it be for Big C or any other means of transportation. Of course, we have to limit ourselves to essential movements, and in every case, the rules of hygiene, like cleaning one's hands, has to be followed. But of course, the hygiene rules have also been increased at the Big C stations. I would also like to come back to the measures set up by the city in the Municipal Office of Housing. First of all, the city offered their support to this Municipal Office of Housing to help them with the 12 low housing. So there's security guards that were sent to those low-income housing. And also the City of Montreal has offered to go further with the support to the OMH by taking charge of the coordination of the entire planning of the people who work there to secure the 132 buildings where the elderly live at night and day. So these are teams of the city that structure and plan the needs in sanitary equipment as well as the staff and human resources that are necessary. So today we also coordinated the procurement in sanitary. I'm, of course, talking about everything that has to do with the material and is infected. And as of tomorrow, we're going to start assigning employees of the city to all of these. And we're going to be able to cover all shifts as of Friday or at the very latest Saturday. And I want to mention that also although the government of Quebec is the main organization group of the Montreal Housing Municipal Office, or the OMH, we are very proud to be able to help out in this situation because we have to find solutions, we have to act quickly, we have to show a lot of innovation, and I'm proud of the work that's been done by the City of Montreal and its partners in a situation such as the OMH. As far as economic measures are concerned, before leaving the mic to my colleague, please allow me to remind you of the different measures that we have set up since the beginning of the pandemic. We were very quick at this level. First, the postpone of the second municipal taxes payments for both owners and companies. So it's now the 2nd of July, a moratorium of 6 months on the capital and interest of loans that were already agreed to SMEs via the PME Montreal network, with taking charge of the interest for 6 months by the City of Montreal. We also set up financial help of emergency of $5 million to support the economic sectors that are more vulnerable. We can think of social economy amongst others, retail as well. And finally, the setup of an information line that already received over 2,000 requests for accompaniment. And that telephone line of information is very important because it allows us, as the name indicates, to be able to help out companies, accompany them to structure the different kinds of help that is available to them, whether at the federal or provincial level or municipal levels. And then finally, with our emergency fund, our innovation fund of $1 million, we have set up a delivery system, an urban one that is going very well. It was done very organically. We can see to what extent entrepreneurs continue innovating and thinking outside of the box, even in periods of crisis. So that system of delivery is allowing smaller players who did not have delivery services to be able to continue offering their services thanks to that delivery system. And that was done together with commercial development companies in 2 different boroughs, but we can see that there's already other areas of the city that are interested. And then finally, the last element is the proposal for different organizations to be able to answer their needs that are in difficulties. So these elements show to what extent for us our companies, whether they be small, big, but particularly the little ones that make up the majority of our ecosystem here in Montreal, they are important, and we really wish to support them so that they continue their activities, they get through the crisis, and they'd be able to quickly be put back on their feet when we are able to go to a new phase after confinement. So we're going to be talking about that $40 million, and it really is a measure to help out. It's an emergency program to help out SMEs. And as I was saying earlier on, it is something that is complementary to all the rest that already exists, but it will help us keep all of these players that are so important for the economic vitality of our city. It'll be able to keep them solid, or at least to decrease the negative impact of COVID-19 by keeping them afloat. So, Mr. Rabouin, thank you, Madam Mayor. So you can see that the city is in action supporting companies. We have a series of measures that we have already announced and set up, and today we have a very structuring measure that we're happy to be announcing to you. So this is a program of loans of $40 million, as was announced by the government of Quebec last week. So we have an agreement so that there be $40 million that is available for small Montreal companies. That initiative will help us financially support with the shape of liquidities because, small companies have a hard time being able to pay their fixed costs. So we're going to be able to help them to maintain, consolidate, or relaunch their activities in the context of COVID-19. That help is available for all Montreal company that is temporarily closed or that might close temporarily, as well as those that want to maintain or relaunch their operations in the context of the health crisis. All companies, so it's all companies including social economy companies, so NPCs or co-ops that have a commercial aspect, they can use that program. The 6 service poles for SME Montreal, you know that in Montreal we have a network really of which we call the SME Montreal network, to be able to accompany companies. So it really is that network that is going to be helping out companies so that they can have access to this new program. So there are 6 offices spread out throughout the island of Montreal, so we really are covering the entire area. Concretely, the help that is going to be granted are going to be loans of a maximum amount of $50,000, so that is complementary to other programs that were announced. The government of Quebec already announced a program of loans for $15,000 and more, so bigger companies or that have a loan capacity that is bigger, that is managed by Investissement Québec. So this is really for smaller companies that have needs that are more between $25,000 and $50,000. So a maximum loan of $50,000, an interest rate of 3%. We'll be granting right off the bat a moratorium of 6 months on the capital and interest. That means that the company will start reimbursing only in 6 months. And the city on top is going to take the interest and pay the interest for the first 6 months. So usually when you have a capital interest moratorium, the interest, add themselves and then they have to be reimbursed. But for the first 6 months, the city will be paying them as a measure of help to companies. So in order to deploy this program as quickly as possible, because companies need cash now, the city decided to give the $40 million ahead of time, because usually it has to be adopted by the municipal council, the agglomeration council. But since we wanted it to be as quickly as possible, the city is going to be paying out that $40 million while waiting for the government of Quebec to give that help. So that help is really going to be available in the upcoming days. So together with the bonifications that we're making at the City of Montreal to the help of Quebec, the government of Quebec, there's going to be at least 800 companies. So if all companies get the maximum $50,000, it's $50,000, 800 companies, that's $40 million. But we know that there's going to be a bit more because not everybody's going to need the maximum amount. So it's at least 1,000 companies that will be supported thanks to this. So I invite all companies in Montreal that are in that situation of temporary difficulties to be able to use that program and to visit the website of PME Montreal or SME Montreal. Since the beginning of the crisis, the network continues offering services remotely. There will be a form that will be available online in the upcoming days, and the help could be granted directly by the end of the month of April. So I repeat, our willingness, we're showing it, we're doing a lot of actions, is to help as many companies as possible to allow them to survive this crisis and be able to relaunch our economy as quickly as possible. Our SMEs and neighborhood stores constitute our economic fabric in Montreal, and we must do everything we can to help them get through this crisis. Thank you.
So, a few words in English?
English?
Oui, okay. So just before we go into today's announcement on how we will be spending the $40 million announced by the government of Quebec that will support enterprises here in Montreal, I just want to go over a few of the elements, few news and new information on how things are going right now dealing with the COVID. So first of all, I want to thank all Montrealers who are following all the rules and recommendations. Thank you for your resilience, your discipline as well. And I'm convinced that this is how we will get through this as fast, and we will even be stronger after this. During the weekend, we decided to open a first safety corridor project on the Plateau Mont-Royal to see how this could support a better distancing while having to do your running errands, necessary errands, but while necessary. It's been a success, so we're now working with the different boroughs on how we could do similar initiatives on business streets. Also, this Monday, past Monday, we have announced that we are starting all the cleaning of the arterial streets, the sidewalks, and also the bicycle path. We will also begin to fix the potholes. So this is a good thing. And for all the streets, we will have to wait until May 1st as we decided to delay everything related to parking restriction for 1st of May. Today is also the first day of Bixi, which is we're really happy that Bixi is starting his season, following what other major cities have done in the past. And also following the recommendation of public health authorities, we have chosen to launch we have decided to launch the bike share system in order to offer additional travel options for essential workers and for people that needs to do essential movements as well. We're also proud that Big C decided to offer a free 30-day subscription to healthcare workers, which is a great news. This is the kind of news we want to hear about. Regarding the Office Municipal d'Habitation, a lot of people are worried about the situation, and I'm here to say that since the beginning, we've been giving support and help dealing with the COVID within the different buildings owned by the Office Municipal d'Habitation. This is how we've been supporting into offering more security in the 12 HLM and lending some of the necessary staff. Same thing last week also, where we decided to offer to take charge of the whole coordination of workforce and also some of the planning in the 132 towers for seniors, both day and night. So as a result, a team of about a dozen city managers are working to structure and plan the needs in terms of sanitary equipment and necessary workforce. As for tomorrow, we will start assigning city employees, and we believe that we will be able to cover all shifts starting on Friday, or at least or by the latest on Saturday. And though I want to remind everybody that OMH is definitely under the responsibility of the government of Quebec, we are there to help. We're in a crisis. It's time to find solutions, be innovative, be supportive, and this is what we're doing with the OMH. Now, in terms of economic measures, we have good news to share. We'll let my colleague, Mr. Rabouin, give you more details, but I just want to say that since the beginning, the City of Montreal and our administration have shown how important it is to support our economic ecosystem, and particularly regarding small businesses. And it's hard for everybody, even though you're a medium or a bigger businesses or enterprise, but we know that for the small ones, it's difficult. So I guess I just want to say that we were able to put together an emergency financial assistance of $5 million to support the most vulnerable economic sector, including retail and social economy. Also, we decided to do the extension of the second installment of municipal taxes for homeowners and businesses, as well as giving a 6-month moratorium on the capital and interest of loans already granted to small and medium enterprises by the PME Montreal network, which is a great news. We've also implemented an information line that has already received 2,000 requests of assistance. And what's good about this is that we're there to accompany businesses throughout the process of getting financial support, both at the provincial and federal level. But we're here to support because we know it's a difficult time. As well, I'm very proud that our $1 million innovation fund was used, partially used to create a local delivery system. We know that even in time of crisis, there's a lot of innovation that comes from business people. And so they were able, with our help, to put this local delivery system together, which supports small businesses. And so today, with all those measures, I'm very glad that we can talk about this program that is really an emergency assistance program for small and medium-sized businesses affected by the pandemic. So it's all yours to share all the details about this good news for businesses today.
So as you can see, the City of Montreal is very active to support our small businesses in Montreal. And this new program was set up thanks to a $40 million loan from the Quebec government, as announced by the Minister of Economy and Innovation a few days ago. This initiative will help us provide financial support in the form of liquidity to companies that are having difficulty maintaining, consolidating, or relaunching their operations because of COVID-19. This assistance is available to any Montreal business that is temporarily closed or likely to be closed, as well as those trying to maintain or restart their operations in the context of this crisis. All Montreal businesses, including those in the social economy, will be able to benefit from this program. The 6 service centers of PME Montréal, our support network for Montreal businesses, will ensure the deployment of this financial assistance throughout the agglomeration's territory. This assistance will take the form of a loan up to $50,000 at an interest rate of 3%. A 6-month moratorium on principal and interest will automatically be applied to the loans granted. Furthermore, the city will cover the interest charging during the moratorium. So for the first 6 months, the City of Montreal will assume the interest in order to lighten the financial burden and to better respond to the specific liquidity issues of Montreal businesses. Businesses will therefore have no payments nor interest to pay during the first 6 months of the loan. Moreover, in order to deploy the program as quickly as possible, the city has decided to advance the sum of $40 million while waiting to receive provincial assistance. Applications can therefore be submitted within the next few days, and the aid will be delivered quickly. Thanks to this Quebec government program and the City of Montreal's incentives, a minimum of 800 Montreal businesses will be able to obtain assistance if they each apply for the maximum amount of $50,000. Of course, we will support more than 800 enterprises because they will not all need the maximum of the amount available. I therefore invite Montreal companies wishing to take advantage of the program to visit the website of PME Montréal Network. A registration form will be available in a few days. The assistance will then be available by the end of April. Thank you.
Merci. On va prendre.
Thank you. So we'll now be going to questions. So first, the journalists are here. Hello, Madam Mayor. And 2 questions. First, in public health. Yes, and I wanted to mention that the questions having to do with public health that are very specific, it will be Dr. Drouin who will be able to answer them. We'll be together tomorrow. So I'm not going to, pretend I'm an expert in public health. I just want to tell you. Well, I'll ask anyway, and we'll see. Yes, we'll see. We had spoken last time before we realized the extent to which the situation was difficult in CHSLDs, particularly on the island of Montreal, but we're already talking about a summit of the peak. Do you think we announced it too quickly for Montreal, I mean? Do you have the impression that we are improving this fight against the pandemic? Well, in fact, it really is Dr. Drouin who will be able to answer you because it was, of course, public health who determines and create the scenarios. So I won't be able to comment on your question. I'm sorry. Okay, economically speaking, yes. The city announced surpluses of a few million this morning, but we know that the city is going to be there's going to be a lot of difficulties because of the situation. What are you telling Montrealers today for the upcoming year? Should they get ready for tax increases, deficits that are perhaps unavoidable because it's not going to be easy? How do you see it? I won't keep it from you. We are evaluating all that, having now the data on the economic situation that allows us to create scenarios, but it really is still too early to know what's going to happen with COVID-19. But unlike the city of Vancouver, for example, who said we're just going to go bankrupt, that is not a scenario that we are considering. The choices that we made in the course of the past few years since we got in power make it that we kept reserves. We're well positioned, but of course there's going to be difficult choices to make, and we're starting to think about it. Certain projects, for example, that were important to us and that we judged that they were fabulous, but which perhaps now won't be as high on the list of priority. Obviously, for me, I don't want services to citizens to be affected. And at the same time, we're talking with Quebec because not only a city cannot go bankrupt, but it can't even have deficits according to our law. We're the only ones that can't be at a deficit, and I won't hide it from you, that puts us in very bad posture. And we are discussing with, the federal and provincial government saying, the cities need help. We're like a big company, I have employees and services to give. It's very similar. As far as taxes are concerned, to answer your question, that is not at all a scenario that we're thinking or that we want. There is nobody today that is thinking the solution is to increase taxes. After that, we'll see in the next months what it's going to all look like. But for us, we know that it's already difficult for citizens. We don't want to add anything to that. But it's early. I do want to say that it's early. I'm giving you, like ideas of what we're thinking about, but it is much too early to be able to have a global portrait of the situation. Thank you.
On passe aux questions reçues en ligne. Peut-être pour M. Rabouin, Zachary Gaudreau.
For Mr. Rabouin,
Pourquoi accorder des prêts et
why
pas des subventions
loans and not commercial subsidies?
Merci, Monsieur Gaudreau.
Thank you, Mr. Gaudreau. This is a program that was developed by the government of Quebec, the Ministry of Economy and Innovation. It is a program applicable to all of Quebec, of which a portion, 40 million out of 150 million, is allocated to the City of Montreal, and the government of Quebec determined that 100% of that amount would be for loans at a 3% interest rate. So we in Montreal, we are setting up that program for Montreal, and we add a Montreal aspect to it by saying that we're giving a 6-month moratorium, and for the first 6 months, it is the city that will be paying the interest. That is the contribution that is specific of the city to that program of the government of Quebec. Are you considering enlarging the access of certain programs, such, for example, promoters on the major works to all businesses that are affected by the coronavirus? Right now, we're evaluating all programs in the city of Montreal and to see how some could be revised, or whether there's any amounts of money that have to be redirected towards other positions. So we are thinking and considering all programs.
Monsieur Legault
spoke about reopening small businesses without giving a date. What would be a good date, according to you, Madam Mayor? And would bars and restaurants, will they remain closed all summer? It is much too early for me to be able to answer that question, what would be the ideal date or the correct date. We are still managing this crisis. I think that we can see it at many levels. So these are discussions that we have with all of our partners. Here at the city, economic development as well, but social development, and we're talking with our different partners to think about what things could look like. There's no date that's been decided upon, but when we know that we're going to have to respect social distancing rules, it's a challenge. And so we're considering everything. Tickets of $1,500 are given to people who are homeless for illegal gathering. They have nowhere to confine themselves. The Commission of Human Rights is talking about discriminatory profiling. Is it acceptable? Are you going to ask the police officers to adjust their practices? It's difficult for me because I can't comment situations, case by case. But one thing that I can tell you is that giving out a ticket is never what is wished for or what is the preferred way of doing it by an agent of the peace. Generally speaking, there are teams that are on the premises that work with the homeless community, which, by the way, is not monolithic. There's different groups, different people, different stories. There are different reasons that bring people into homelessness, and very often it's very complex. So there are street workers and people who are usually in the field, and right now, I'm going to be very transparent with you, it's not easy to get the qualified staff to be able to help out to have these respected. It's the rules, yes, but it's also ensuring that nobody in the city of Montreal gets intimidated or feels threatened. So it's a balance, and it's not easy to get this balance. I'm not going to comment on this case in particular, but I really wish to reiterate that all the measures that we're trying to set up with the homeless population, whether it be the hotels that we open, you know, the day centers, the night shelters, the places where they can come and get warm. This is to try to support this population that is already marginalized and vulnerable, and the police officers are only there when a situation is less under control or we can't disperse a group. Regardless of that group, it is in those circumstances that the SPVM intervenes. Last question in French. How is the amount of $50,000, how was it determined?
Oui, ben, en fait, il y a eu un premier programme annoncé.
Well, there was a first program that was announced by the government of Quebec that was for loans of $50,000 and more. That was for SMEs as well, but perhaps more medium than small, piloted by Investissement Québec. And then there were discussions on our side. We had already identified at the City of Montreal the needs of the smaller companies, you know, retailers who could not get qualified for loans of $50,000 and who didn't have the ability to, you know, get that much in debt anyway. So I think that the government heard it from other regions and decided to create another program for $50,000 and less. The idea is being that if you need $50,000 or more, there's already an existing program. If you need less than that, well, it's a program that we're announcing this morning that is already set up, that is now set up, and that will be distributed to companies through the PME Montréal network. And according to the FOCFIB, many companies would need help. Is it going to be enough? Well, we have 150 million, which is important, you know, by the government of Quebec. 40 of that is in Montreal, so we're going to respond to the needs, and then we'll see if there's more need or not. But we already have a very important, significant amount, and we're working to make it available as quickly as possible to all companies. And as to complement, I think this is a question of the metropolis as well. We're not only the most hit country, I say Montreal, but it could also be the metropolitan area. We are the hardest hit, and we are the, you know, economic engine of Quebec. So the number of companies is considerable. There's a lot, and they are the ones who contribute to the dynamism of the city and the province. So obviously for us, what we wish is that the financial help that comes from Quebec, as well as the federal government, take that unique situation into account. English question.
From CTV, big Cs are now open to the public with new measures in place because of COVID-19. Will there be enforcement of the new rules, such as keeping right to essential trips only or disinfecting the bikes before each ride?
So when we decided to, and when I say we, it's not only the City of Montreal, but it was done with the agreement of the public health authorities. And we also decided to follow what other cities, big cities, have been doing with offering bike sharing system like Bixi. So it is important to put in context. But of course, when we decided to do so, there's going to be more cleanups in between usage, or at least when the bikes are being brought back in the morning and at night, there will be a cleanup. There will also be signs of what are the good recommendations around hygiene. But the same way that we wash our hands before and after we go in a grocery store and we hold our basket, it will be exactly the same thing. We invite all the population to follow the same recommendation of clean up your hands before and after. Thank you.
Secondly, why was it important to continue Big C service this season despite the pandemic?
So again, I think it's important to look at how it's been useful in other cities around the world dealing with COVID as well, because it is one way for people to use for their essential movements an option of transport option. Some people might walk, some people might take a bike, some people may take the bus or the subway. Maybe some people have a car, maybe they don't. So for people working into the health network or doing essential jobs as well and doing essential movements, it is an option that is out there for them. And again, it's important to follow the recommendation of the public health authorities.
From CBC, Isaac Olson, The STM is looking for ways to make riding public transit safer, such as staggering work hours to reduce rush hour crowding. How are you going to ensure people and customers can safely navigate the city once the economy restarts?
Those are good questions that, of course, we are working with our partners, including the STM, having the conversation around what will make it, how can we make sure that those transportation modes are safe following the recommendation 2 meters distance. And so we will be able to share how we will be working in the next coming weeks, as we also have more information on how the reopening of activities will also happen.
Thank you. From the Gazette, what percentage of Montreal businesses will be helped by this program?
Percentage?
I don't know the percentage, but we can say that at least 1,000 small businesses will be helped directly by this program.
Which are the small businesses? Because like we were saying, other types of businesses, bigger ones, also have a program already. So for the small ones.
Yeah, and this program is in complement to other provincial and federal programs. The Government of Canada has also a program. Government of Quebec has a program for $50,000 and more loan. And now this one is to complete the offer.
If a business person is already receiving aid under the federal program of people unable to work because of COVID-19, are they also eligible for additional aid under this program? So you say...
From the federal?
Yeah.
Yes.
And is it first come, first served for the enterprise that applied?
Yes.
So last question in English from CBC. Many nightclubs and restaurants say operating with social distancing guidelines will be impossible. They say it likely won't be possible to reopen until a vaccine is found. Also, many don't want to take loans because they can handle more debt. What are you doing to prevent the mass failures of Montreal restaurants, bars, and nightclubs?
Well, this is where we're trying to put all the measures that are available, both from the provincial, the federal, and the help from the municipal as well, available for those small businesses. And it is too soon to say exactly how the 2 meter distance will work. The government of Quebec and the national health authorities haven't shared either how this reopening of activities will happen, in which ways. So it is too soon to say how it will function, but we will be supporting as much as we can all these important businesses.
Merci tout le monde.
Merci.
Thank you, everyone.